Hello ladies and gentlemen, Robert here with Ordained Tech, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to build a gaming computer. So to start off, I'm going to show you our parts list. Our parts consist of the AMD FX 4170 processor. This is a 4-core processor running at 4.2 GHz. For our motherboard, we're going to go with the Asus Sabertooth 990 FX. Our RAM is going to be the Corsair XMS3 8 gigs running at 1600 MHz. Our hard drives are going to be the Western Digital Caviar Blue and Black. For the graphics card, we're going to go with an AMD card. We're going to have the XFX Radeon 7770. CPU cooler is the Thermaltake Contact 16, and the Rosewill Redbone is going to be our case of choice. So stay tuned and enjoy. Okay, so the first step we're going to do is we're going to take our motherboard out of the bag that it comes in, which is an anti-static bag, and lay it onto the cardboard box that our motherboard came with. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our DDR3 memory and we're going to insert it into our motherboard. We're going to take our memory and line it up, just like so. And firmly press down on both sides. Simple as that. We're going to take our neck stick and just pop it in. And firmly press down on both sides. Here we have our processor, and this is the brain of your computer. Now, whatever you do, make sure you don't touch the gold pins on the back of the processor, as human oils do not react very well with them. So you can see the different gaps in the pins, and we're going to use that to insert our processor into the processor socket. So this is called a zero insertion force socket, and what we're going to do is we're just going to line up the golden triangle with the golden triangle, and as you can see, it's right here. So you have the white triangle there and the little yellow triangle, and this is where it gets its name. We just gently line it up. It should fall right into place, as you can see it has. And now we're just going to gently take our arm, push it down, and done. The next step for our computer build is to attach the CPU cooler we have. Now, I picked out the Thermaltake Contact 16 CPU cooler because it's a good price and has very, very beneficial cooling abilities. So, the first thing we do is we take our Cooler Master thermal paste, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a pea-sized or BB-sized amount exactly in the center, because that's where the 4 cores of the processor are. Never overdo your thermal paste, because if you do, it could seep out around the sides, and it is conductive. So if it touches any of these conductors or links out there, it could really screw it up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead, take a pea-sized amount, and a little more. Just a little bit more. I hope I have enough left. And there we go. So there we have it. And I just completely finished up my thermal paste. I actually got lucky with that. Oh, I thought I was going to run out. That is all the thermal paste that you need, because it will spread out. Now, the next step to our computer build is going to be probably the trickiest part. So what we're going to do is we're going to install our Contact 16 CPU cooler, and the first thing you have to do is you have to take your AMD backplate, or whichever backplate that you're using. We have AMD, so we use the AMD socket, and we're going to slide it right under and make sure it's lined up perfectly. So I'm just going to take a look at this real quick, and okay, so it's going to go in like this. We just lift this up. This is the absolute trickiest part. There's many ways to do it, and I probably chose the hardest. So here is our CPU cooler, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have the fan blowing in the correct direction. So as you can see from this little image, as you can see, the air will flow up, and it will flow out that direction, which means we're going to have this placed this way. Getting a nice view. Place that down. There we have it. Alright, so our next step is to take our spring screw and screw it right in to the standoff that we have. We're just going to tighten down these two. Tighten down this one. Alright, so our next step, which I know you can do this later or now, but I prefer to do it now while I have everything out, is to take our graphics card, which we have right here. This is the XFX 7770 HD series, and what we're going to do is we're going to insert it into what we call our PCI X16 slots. So this motherboard has 4 of them, 3, 4, and these are essentially just what transfer the data in between the motherboard and processor and graphics card. So for those of you who do not know what a graphics card is essentially it's almost, you can consider it like a laptop. It has its own processor and RAM, just as our computer does, but it's only allocated to graphics, and it has this thing called GDDR5. Here we have our DDR3. DDR5 is almost twice as powerful as DDR3. It has about twice as much memory per chip. So say this has 2 chips equaling 4 gigs, this would have 1 chip equaling 2 gigs. So here it is, and here's our PCI X16 slot, and I'm just going to give you guys a better angle to view this on. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take our graphics card, and as you guys can see, we're going to line it up and give a little pressure, and it should go right in. And you hear the click. So you can see it is in and locked into place. So, easy. Now all the work on the motherboard is done. One little thing that we can do right now is over here you can see we have our fan headers. Take this. Oh, it's a 3-pin. And Christ, I cannot do this with my left hand. There. Alright, so here we have our input-output shield, which will go into the back of our case, and essentially this is what the motherboard ports line up to, and they protect the motherboard itself when you're inserting your cables. This part is absolutely impossible for me. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our case and we're going to locate all the standoff points for our motherboard. These are essentially the points that you line up your motherboard with and then screw it down into. It is very important that you only insert the ones you need, because if you don't, you could short circuit your motherboard and the whole thing will be fried. So locate your motherboard manual again and read inside of it. Actually, this is case manual, and read inside as to where all the standoffs belong. So here we have our case, and as you can see, I've installed all of the motherboard standoffs that is necessary. And I also do have some cables pre-routed just because it's easier for me, and I actually just took apart my computer for this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear everything out of the way, and the next step is probably the second most fragile step next to actually installing your processor. What we're going to do is we're going to take our motherboard and we're going to lay it down into here. So remember how I taught you how to grab it? You grab it from the CPU cooler and bottom, and here's where grabbing it from the CPU cooler will be very, very beneficial. So we're going to take our motherboard and we're just going to slide it down into the I/O shield and standoffs, and And already everything's coming in nice, and we're just about in line with everything. So, as you can see, the graphics card lines up perfectly, all the cables are lined up, and I can see the motherboard standoffs through the screw holes, which means that we are actually in line. So the next thing you want to do is we're going to take your screws that came with your motherboard and you're going to screw it down in all the necessary places, and then if you have a graphics card like we do, you're going to want to screw that down as well. So it adds for extra support and it's not putting pressure onto your PCI X16 brackets. Alright, so we've screwed in our screw. Make sure you don't go too hard, because if you go like crazy hard down, you could crack your motherboard, and that's usually not a good thing. Alright, so we've made it some way now, and we're coming up towards the end actually, believe it or not. So now this is the part where most people seem to be intimidated or have struggles with this part, and this is the actual wiring itself. So what we have here is an assortment of cables and wires that are coming either from the front panel, or they are our SATA cables, or for those of you who do not know, a SATA cable is the cable that transfers data from hard drives and disk drives to your motherboard, processor, etc. So this is easy. We're just going to take our SATA cables and plug them right into the 8 SATA ports. You don't fill them all up unless you have 8 devices to fill them up with, but we're just going to do that first, and that's the easy part. So here are our front panel wires. Now my motherboard came with this little adapter piece, and it has all the labels on it already for where each cable goes in. So here we have our HDD LED, and it says right here, put the positive in this and the negative in this. Looking at your wires, the white will always be the negative and the colored is the positive. So we have our HDD LED, our power switch, reset switch, and back here we have a LED on the front. So here is the leads for the front panel adapter. I'm just going to take it and slide it in. Easy as that. And we're done. We have done all the wiring for the actual motherboard itself. The only thing left to hook up would be a disk drive, which I'm not going to include in this build. If you're doing a disk drive and you don't plan on using it much, what I would do is take a SATA cable and later on I'll show you all the power cables when we install the PSU, but just take a SATA cable, run it out to out here, this area of the case, and you can just plug your hard drive in externally, unplug it, remove the cable, and you don't ever have to worry about it again. So here is the leads for the front panel adapter. I'm just going to take it and slide it in. Easy as that. And we're done. We have done all the wiring for the actual motherboard itself. The only thing left to hook up would be a disk drive, which I'm not going to include in this build. If you're doing a disk drive and you don't plan on using it much, what I would do is take a SATA cable and later on I'll show you all the power cables when we install the PSU. But just take a SATA cable, run it out to out here, this area of the case, and you can just plug your hard drive in externally, unplug it, remove the cable, and you don't ever have to worry about it again. Okay, so here we have our 2 hard drives, 500 gig Western Digitals, the best on the market, I would say. Western Digital is extremely reliable by far. And this is not a toolless, or tool, It has toolless options, but what we're going to do is we're going to go with a screwed-in mounting system. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our hard drive, and this is the one that's going to go on the bottom, and it just slides right in like this. Be nice and gentle with it, and easy as that. Slides right in. So we're going to take our second hard drive, I'm going to put it right up here, and try not to bend these wires I have connected to my motherboard. And we just slide it in like that. Simple as that, and done. Now we're just going to screw them in. Take our screw and line everything up. This screw was probably way too tall, but we're going to line it up. And I missed. And we're just going to get it there. And presto. It's in. Alright, so this is a tough angle, but here is our 90-degree SATA cable, which is what is equivalent to plugged in into the motherboard. And we're just going to take it and slide it, and yeah, it's upside down, great. And slide it right in. Now it only goes one way, so don't force it. Alright, so here's our power supply, the Corsair CX430. And the easiest way to do it is just lay the actual rig down flat, and what we're going to do is we're going to line it up to the back of the chassis, and then we're going to screw it down. So tuck all these many cables that it comes with just right in here, and we're just going to rotate this. So here is our PSU, and there's 2 screw holes for this system. I think, is there only 2? We actually have to line it up first. It's not lined up. There we go. No, now there's 4. It wasn't even lined up properly. So the easiest way to do this is start this off with your fingers and then screw it in. Actually, I'll only do 3. I can't reach the 4th one. It's okay if you only do 3 because some only have it so you do 3. So then you're going to screw it in. Make sure it's nice and tight, because if it's not, you can get some vibration noises because of the fan spinning on your power supply. But most cases have rubber grommets underneath of your power supply to prevent that. Just like mine. So we're just going to screw this in, holding it flat. Alright, so we've gotten our power supply screws mounted, and we are done with all the screwing in. Now I'm going to have to show you guys how to wire everything. Okay guys, so here we have all the cables, and I'm going to just run through these and tell you what they do. So here is a 4+4 pin. As you can see, there's 4 and 4. This is what we're going to connect over there, and it is CPU power. Next we have 4 Molex cables, which is actually a lot. I would have preferred more other cables, but what a Molex is a Molex can provide power for things such as fans, or a fan controller, or a pump for water cooling. So they are just little things. I actually am not using any, so that's why I have them zip tied up and that. Here we have our SATA power cables. These will provide power to our hard drive so they can spin up. And here we have, nope, we already did the 4+4. Here we have a 6+2. As you can see, it has 6 and 2. This is what we will be using to power our graphics card. And last we have our 20+4, and this provides power for the entire motherboard. So guys, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through these and individually plug them in. Alright, now we're going to give our graphics card some juice, and we're going to take our 6+2, or yeah, 6+2, and it's going to go right into the side of the graphics card. So probably end up blocking this, but sorry guys. And simple as that. We have our 6+2 plugged in. Now all that's left is our hard drives and CPU. Alright, so hidden back there, you guys can see, as I kind of stumble across my tripod, we have our 4+4 for the CPU power, and we're just gonna take it, which is right here, and reach up there. I hope I don't cut myself on my CPU cooler, because I have done that so many times. Those things are so thin, it just cuts you right open. Alright. There we go. It's plugged in, we heard the click, and, oh crap. I'm just gonna, alright, yeah, we're all good. It's just, let me show you this. Cable management is a big part of this, and as you can see, it is just a mess right now, so I'll get to it after the video, don't worry. Guys, can you believe it? We're practically done with the physical build itself. All we have left to do is give our hard drive some power. We're going to use a SATA power connector, and right below the SATA connector is the plug. It only goes in one way, just like the SATA does. So we have that in. Alright guys, we're done. We have completely built our gaming computer. The only thing left to do is actually just plug in this fan connector. And nope, now we are officially done with this computer. So if you've stuck around till this time, thanks everybody. Check out my review of the XFX R770 graphics card. That's going to be coming up, or it already came out. And check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/ordainedtechnology. Add me on, or follow me on Twitter at rwesswein, and subscribe and like, guys. Got any questions, comments? You can shoot me an email. My email is in the description. That is the fastest way to get me to respond, because I will always have my phone with me. And yeah, guys, if you like this, subscribe and like. That's all I have to say. Thank you, everybody. Peace out. Have a good day, or whatever. Ah, shit.